Hello, Winternet. This is Ewan Spence and ESC Insight Calling. Czechia's up next as we review the songs for Eurovision 2023. Yes, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. If you're a long-time podcast listener, you've already heard the review. And maybe you just want to get refreshed about what we said about the Czechia song. Maybe you haven't listened to our podcast and you're just going through all the YouTube channels for all the reviews of your favourite songs and everything else that's heading to Liverpool. In either case, welcome. I'm Ewan Spence. Moni Moncrief is going to join me for this little review, as is Olympia. It is the song for Czechia. It's called My Sister's Crown and it's by Vesna. There has been controversy around this one. Yes, it's a Czechia song. It is about the situation in Ukraine, and it is about much more, depending on who you speak to, because, again, we're back to the issue of this is art. You know, the words that are used, the lyrics, they're intricate, they're layered, and they no doubt have many meanings, depending on how you read them, and some of those have been called into question, including the word sister and sisterhood and the idea of a crown. And, you know, there are many Ukrainians who find this uncomfortable. You know, I interpret songs in one way. Here in Jukebox Jury, you can see that I interpret it one way, others interpret it another. And I can appreciate why Ukrainian fans are approaching this song differently to the fans in Czechia or the fans here. And, look, I'll be honest, I feel I'm not qualified to try and adjudicate on really complex cultural issues in an 8-minute spot in a song review podcast at the Eurovision Song Contest. But it is there. So again, this is something, if you want to go out and do more reading, you can. I'm going to go with the band statements. They spoke to ESC Bubble recently where they talk about the song being a story of sisterhood and a protest against gender inequality. They've stated their support for Ukraine in the war against Russian aggression. And I will take that as well-meaning intentions, although perhaps possibly naive intentions in execution as well.
So yes, it's a tricky one based on what you've said. I think whenever a song does toe a kind of political line, people are always gonna glean different things from it, and it's certainly not my place to question people's feelings. Certainly when I don't have a leg in the race, the horse in the race myself. So I'm choosing to glean that this is a song about empowering women, about challenging gender inequality. And I think that if we are to understand that Eurovision was founded on this idea of rising up and celebrating cooperation, I think it's a joyous, celebratory song. And I can't say enough good things about it. I think that when something is this level of artful and thoughtful, but it's also very accessible. It's really engaging. The first time you listen to it, which, as we know, a lot of people are going to hear these songs just the once, and that's the time that matters. I think in that kind of context, it gives me a little constructor from last year, where it is challenging and it is a little bit what's going on here, but it's also a bop at the same time. It's just, I feel like it's operating in a similar space. It's a banger. I just can't stop listening to it. I like the mix of languages. It feels like it's in a winner's space. It's just a shame when there are some real powerhouses that are probably gonna overtake it, because when this first came out, we were talking about it being a winning song, and to me, it's still right up there.
I think it's an interesting conversation point as to, you know, whether there is appropriation of another country's culture or struggle at the moment, and I can see an interpretation of that. I take this song as a song of unity across the Slavic sisterhood, the Slavic region, but also beyond. I think it has really universal appeal. For me, it feels as though it's going to have huge resonance with anybody who supports the position of women in general, but also, you know, there's a definite solidarity being shown in the song towards Ukraine. There's anti-war elements to it. There's Ukrainian language brought in. And I tend to think that by putting together a collective of women who are drawn from across the Slavic region, that has integrity to me. That has there's something genuine about this. I think as well, the language, the words they're using, like the part in Sestra Krasiva, Oiti Silna, Harobra Jedina, Karona Tvaya, they're words which are very similar sounds in different Slavic languages. So if you know any Slavic languages, even just a little bit, these are going to be words and sounds you're quite familiar with. So I think it has that kind of, that you'll find solidarity, you'll find understanding in the song. I mean, to me, there's nothing about the song that I don't love. And I think the video is really playful. I hope that they manage to get some elements of that across in the stage performance.
It utterly intrigues me how this is going to be presented, because I think to get the votes to be a good competitive entry, it's going to need to have enough of a visual hook to pull it through when it comes to the voting. I don't think the vocals and the audio presentation alone is going to be enough, even though, there's so many, the language is adding enough texture to keep this constantly feeling fresh musically. I think the audio is there, but the presentation is a huge question mark for me.
I suppose the thing that it could be its downfall is that there are a lot of them. It would appear from all of the promo that they've done and the performance we've seen of this song already that it is sometimes you don't quite know where your eye is drawn to. Maybe there needs to be a little bit more cohesion to stop it kind of falling apart because it's a little messy. But it's early days. It's really early days, and as soon as we start to see some of those rehearsals coming in, we're gonna really know what we're in for. But I have such faith in this. I would say this is an absolute hit for me.
This is, I think, fallen back in many fans' conscience since it was chosen. We've had other songs chosen and revealed, and people have latched onto them, and we've almost forgotten about the positives of this song. I think we need to remember them, and for me, this makes it a hit.
I still question the presentation, and I'm not discounting the fact this is a great song. I still don't feel that it's a competitive enough song to do well. There's so many question marks around this one. Czechia, in the past, the presentation has not been on the ball. So, for me, there are still too many questions for me to go anything more than maybe. My Sister's Crown by Vesna, one of 37 songs heading to the Eurovision Song Contest in Liverpool. If it's not happened yet, we've got daily podcasts, news, articles and discussions back on our website, www.escinsight.com. If the contest is already passed, well, it's all still up there archived and it's in the same URL as well. The only difference is you'll know if we've made some great predictions or some terribly, terribly off-target reviews. But for now, ta-ra. You've been listening to the highlights of Jukebox Jury as we preview the Eurovision Song Contest 2023. Find out more and listen to our podcast, www.escinsight.com.